Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. We continue on in the Gospel of Mark. We're with Jesus, and we're beginning chapter 7. And Jesus is going to get some visitors from Jerusalem. He's going to get some teachers of the law, some scribes, some of the Pharisees are going to show up. They've come to check out what Jesus is doing. They've heard about Him. They have questions about Him. And so they're going to check up on Him. And so we pick it up, Mark chapter 7. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of His disciples eating food with hands that were defiled, that is, unwashed. Okay, and so they're seeing Jesus' disciples eating without washing their hands. Now, for them, this isn't just a hygiene matter. This is a religious matter, that their hands would be defiled from handling worldly things. And so they're defiling themselves. They're not respecting what they've been taught in terms of the elders, that you need to cleanse yourself of worldliness before you put anything in your mouth. And so we'll pick it up. Mark's going to give an explanation here. The Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, holding to the tradition of the elders. When they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, because of course you can pick up all kinds of worldliness at the marketplace. And when they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, and they observe many other traditions, such as the washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and teachers of the law asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the tradition of the elders instead of eating their food with defiled hands?" And so, Jesus, what's up with your disciples? And really, Jesus, what's up with you? How come you're not teaching them better to observe the traditions of the elders and to make sure that they don't defile themselves and become worldly, become contaminated? Jesus replied, "Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules.'" So Isaiah called people out for holding to human traditions rather than truly worshiping God and yielding themselves to God. So Jesus sums it up at verse 8. "You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions." Wow. You've let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. Now, I don't know that we're super concerned about making sure that we wash our hands for religious reasons. They were, but I'm not so sure we are. We think it's a good idea to wash our hands because you don't know what germs you might have picked up. But we don't really think about this in terms of we're defiled by the world if we don't wash our hands before we eat or make sure that all of our cooking utensils are clean. But we do have some human traditions that we think separate us from the world, from worldliness. I think about kind of different churches and their position on Sunday morning attire. And I've even seen churches change from one side to the other. But it used to be you wanted to make sure that you didn't dress worldly when you came to church. And so everyone knows that you could be dressed up, not of the world, and still be consumed by worldliness by wondering if what you wore is appropriate. Will people be impressed by what you wore? Will you be fashionable? All of the worldly desire to be popular and to be flattered. And you're thinking about what people think of you as you go to church instead of thinking about what God thinks of you. And instead of being focused on the Lord, focused on, making sure that we please the crowd around us. Again, that's a worldly attitude disguised as, making sure that we're not defiled by somehow dressing worldly when we go to church. I can think of another example, music. And so we can kind of classify music as worldly versus music as kind of holy. And everybody kind of has their preference for, music. And I can see, we go make sure we hold to the tradition, whether that be traditional hymns or whether that be worship courses from 20 years ago instead of, the stuff that is contemporary today. But we can kind of get set in our understanding of, oh, we're not going to sing that music, that's worldly. And we sing a particular style of music that we think honors God, and yet we can be worldly when we sing it. We're all about impressing people with our ability to sing, with our gifts and our talents. We're all about kind of glorifying self, and we put others down for not liking our type of music, that their music is secular, their music is worldly. And again, what is that? That's worldliness. And so we're embracing the traditions of people, while at the same time neglecting, what God has called us to do, to yield ourselves to Him and to love one another and to build each other up instead of tear each other down. And so I don't know, where you might be with this. I don't know what kind of traditions you might embrace that kind of separate you from the world. But rethink those things. And Jesus doesn't tell them, hey, don't wash your hands anymore, but He's kind of on them for, you think washing your hands is what it's all about. No, it's about actually listening to God and doing what God would have us to do rather than keeping the human traditions. And so you can keep your traditions, but don't judge someone else for not keeping those traditions. But even more importantly, self-examine. Am I actually about what the Lord would have me be about? Am I yielding myself to God, or am I just keeping traditions? And am I loving as the Lord would have me love? Or am I using traditions to somehow elevate myself and put others down? Well, lots to chew on, lots to think about. And I challenge you at some point in the day to kind of stop for a moment and identify a tradition or two that you're keeping that is really just a human tradition. And then examine yourself even further. Am I actually keeping the Word of God, or am I substituting the Word of God with the tradition? And so that I'm actually worldly as I keep this tradition that's supposed to separate me from the world. Well, God bless. Have a great day. Reflect on that, and may God give us grace to recognize human traditions for what they are. And even more, may God give us grace to hold fast to His Word, to His teaching, to His way of love. God bless.